I had talked to a retired Air Force intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance agent. He worked for the Air Force till 2013 when he retired, 1 year before the closing of that division. And I spoke with him last night for a little while, had a great conversation, and he shed some more light on some things that he was kind of vague on last conversation we had. So I asked what I could share. He said, share what you want, just like last time, just not my name, not my email, and not my phone number. I said, absolutely. I said, I do appreciate what you're sharing with us. And so let's get into what he shared with us, or with me. Now I'm sharing it with you. So during his years of work with the ISR, or Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance for the Air Force, he told me a lot about what they were responsible for doing. A lot of that was surveillance in other countries. What he shared with me the other day was, not only are we using or have the capability of using these creatures, manipulating genetics and stuff like that, that China is as well. He believes that a few other countries are in the process of doing it. If China is, chances are the majority of communist countries are as well. It's a tool. These creatures are a tool. I talked a little bit a while ago on my own information that I learned about a scientist from Russia who was forced to share her work with the Russian or Soviet government. I guess it would have been the Soviet Union at that point, where she was studying the cloaking abilities of these creatures. What he said, they used to watch certain locations. America, we have DUMBs. Well, over there, they really don't need to hide anything from their citizens because they really don't have citizens. If you're not pro your country or pro your leader, then you're disposable. A lot of these things were above ground. Now, that I found completely interesting because I always kind of had I always figured that we weren't, if we had that capability, why were we the only country that was capable or able to use these creatures? Yes, we are a great country, and yes, I love America, but there are other countries that have the same amount of capabilities we have, like it or not, unfortunately. Then we started to talk a little bit about Lake Mead and some bodies that were found. And last night, he shared with me a little more on that and a little bit more on some national parks, which I was kind of floored. He pretty much will start with the national parks quickly. Any kind of base, militarized base, is closely located to a national park. They may not be right bordering or butting up against them, but there is a close proximity. Okay. And with these national parks, they're dense forests. And a lot of times they are using or experimenting with certain programs, certain projects. Let's say they are harnessing dogmen or something else, some other genetic mutation that they've created, and some hikers stumble across them. What do you think is going to happen to those hikers? Do you think our government is just going to allow them to walk away? No. He also said that they are creating very strange creatures, ones that we would not even imagine capable of existing in today's world. I mentioned to him, I said, well, how familiar are you with my channel? How familiar are you with cryptozoology? The crawlers, this and that. And I flat out asked him, I said, I truly believe that these creatures were created in Dulce, New Mexico. And he said that they were created after. What he knows is that, yes, it is an alien hybrid. More or less, the aliens or extraterrestrial, however you want to call it, and wherever they came from. He actually said the majority of the creatures that our government, or extraterrestrials that our government worked with during the 50s, 60s, and early 70s, weren't even from outer space. They had harnessed they'd harnessed a way of crossing space through portals on our land. So I said, well, is that dimensional? And he said, interstellar. So they're crossing almost like a wormhole right on Earth. I'm sitting there while he's talking to me and telling me this, like my brain is spinning. It's going 1,000 miles an hour. So he pretty much stated to me when I said the crawlers, I mentioned the crawlers, and I have this written down. I wrote this all down as we were talking. So I filled up probably 15 pages of a yellow notebook. He said what these crawlers were almost like a security force for extraterrestrial. They resembled the extraterrestrial that were working with our government and sharing secrets for our secrets, which would be human test trials and stuff like that. He said that these creatures were like hunters. They would go and hunt these people that were going to be test trials for these extraterrestrials. They were the ones, the hunter-gatherers kind of. They didn't kill the people. They grabbed them and brought them back to whatever kind of military installation was used. And then our government saw the capabilities of these things. They were silent. They were very quick, agile. They could fit in spaces most humanoid-like creatures couldn't, like a dogman, a human, a Sasquatch. They were smaller, but just as strong. They were the ones that were finding the human test subjects. And our government decided sometime along the lines to harness the capabilities of these creatures and kind of make our own with the help of the extraterrestrial. There were a lot of he said there was a lot of experimentation going on after Dulce. He said that he is aware of underground bases being active through the 90s. It was really hush-hush after a certain period of time, but through the 90s, there were experimentations going on, which just, I mean, you have no idea what what hearing this information was like. It was just absolutely mind-blowing. He said that when there would be these test runs of Dogman or any other kind of creatures used to hunt, or, if they were a test run in national parks, that a set of hikers would come across them, they're gone. They would be hunted down. Some are never heard from. Some are quickly brought into an experimental zone. He did say there are multiple portals throughout the national forests, and for a specific reason of, these are dense, deep forests. And like I just said, their military installations are, not all of them are located near these national forests, but a lot of them are. They're not butt up right against them, but how many times have we heard the military going into a national forest? Well, he said the reason for that is when these portals open and these extraterrestrial travelers come over, that they need a way to get to these bases, these underground bases that are below our military installations, to experiment on humans and trade secrets with our government. So I can't even, part of me here, to be honest with you guys, part of me was like looking at the Dulce files all over again. When you first start to read about Dulce and what our government did with extraterrestrials, you're almost like, no, this couldn't have happened. This is a work of science fiction. Part of me was shocked like that while I was talking to this guy. He had mentioned Lake Mead last time. I said, so what's the deal with Lake Mead? He had said, why do you think there are so many bodies tossed in that lake? There's a installation right around that area. Some are discarded after they are used for experimentation. He gave me a perfect example and said that there was a guy named Tom Earned, and his family was on a boat one evening. There's no sign of him after the boating trip. He didn't fall over. The boat didn't capsize. Just recently, they found his body. How do you find a body that disappeared 21 years ago? That, I mean, if you think about it, it would be melted, just bear with me. He said this. He said that body would be like stew. fish, varmint, getting to it, this and that. But they were able to identify his remains because they weren't that bad. They weren't like 21 years of rotting in a lake that's responsible for drinking water at that. It was almost as if when the bodies were found just recently, that his body was tossed in there within the last 6 months. This is all information that he was sharing with me. And I went back and looked into that guy, and he was last seen on a family trip in 2002. Yet just recently you find his body and are able to identify him. It was shocking, truly shocking. He said that he knows for a fact that during the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that the government had gotten intelligence from these extraterrestrials to harness the creatures that were already on planet Earth, like Dogman, Bigfoot. They were capable, after they got this technology, they were capable of controlling them. We're talking about the 50s and 60s. We were still so far unadvanced at that time. Modern day humanity, like the smartphone is only, 10 years old, 12 years old, 15 years old, not long. So, we think of these experimentations going on back then with the capabilities that we have now. Something's responsible for that. Not humankind, that's for gosh darn sure. He truly believes, without a shadow of a doubt, that the government are still, he reached out to me after he'd heard about the Border Patrol thing. Because for him, he said that really made it real that they were still doing what they were doing. They had pretty much harnessed these creatures in case anything went down and they needed to be used. Now, I saw, and I brought this up to him because in the comment section, there was a comment that said, how would they hide this from humanity? And he said, very easy. They're doing it every day. Attacks that are blamed on regular animals. It fits the case, like Tony Aarons, Amber Miller. They weren't regular animals. But yet this case that just recently happened to an old guy in Alabama that was torn apart by dogs, that was really torn apart by dogs. You can almost use that as a comparison. Oh, well, this guy was torn apart in broad daylight in front of people by dogs. So why wasn't these people? And anyone who sees these creatures at use are automatically taken out. And if they aren't, they are labeled as insane, and then they're taken out. Once a whistleblower comes to the light, they are easily taken care of. I myself and other people who are doing what I do are not whistleblowers. We're just sharing information that we gather that can be written off, as active imaginations, right? So these creatures are definitely being used by our government. Other governments have the capability of using them against their own people. And we have created monsters. Our government is constantly creating monsters. People claim to see military vehicles going in and out of national parks. Like he said, why do you think that happens? Because there are portals that these interdimensional travelers, these extraterrestrials, cross over, and they cannot be seen. So what happens? The government sends the military in to transport these extraterrestrials to where they need to go. Military bases with underground military bases below them. Once again, while he was sharing this information with me, my brain was, I don't know how many people have read all of the information about Dulce. There's a lot of it. But when you do, and when you first start to read about it, you truly are like, this can't be real. Yet it is. It's truly mind-blowing. And I don't know what else to say, but that was the end of our conversation. And, he a super nice guy, retired in 2013. He's been sitting on this information for 10 years. But when he heard about the Border Patrol agents, seeing a dog man hunt down migrant people, it automatically reminded him of military and government projects in case, he had said, like, when during the riots that happened in Chicago and California and stuff in the 60s and 70s, there was actually talk of sending dogmen and these type of creatures in to stop it from happening. Thank God they didn't, but imagine if they did. So I don't know. I asked the guy if he would, stay in contact with me, and he just said, I pretty much just shared everything I know with you. Do with it what you want. He was adamant about not recording him. He really was. He asked me about 1,000 times if I had gotten rid of his email address, which he used a Proton one, whatever they are, Proton, and a phone number that was a burner phone. So he asked me to get rid of both of those, even though he is pretty sure they can't be traced. But, don't save them on your phone. Don't write them down. Don't do this. I said, well, I did write your phone number down. I apologize. He said, get rid of it. If I want to contact you, I will. So that's the latest from the retired Air Force intelligence officer. And like I said, our government is up to no good, and they are hiding secrets from us that are no good. How do we trust? How are we supposed to trust something? Trust when they have no care for us? It's scary. It's very scary.